Alright guys, so I've got my firewood cut, split, and set next to the twig stove, also inside of the tent next to the wood stove. So everything looks like it is ready for this evening. If I do require a little bit of additional wood, there's all kinds of wood around here that I can literally just collect and snap with my hands or use a saw if I need to. But I'm fairly confident that with what I have right here and inside of the tent will be enough for tonight and in the morning. So I did manage to find some really good dense hardwood. Really good stuff, and I brought primarily all of that over here. I didn't really bring a whole lot of softwood. Initially it's going to start and burn with softwood, but I'm going to need to feed in these long pieces of hardwood to build dense coals, because I'm going to be cooking a steak and I need to get that on the grill and slow cook it so it doesn't burn it. So that's what the hardwood's for. It's very dry, it'll burn very nicely. So I'm just trying to get my twig stove situated here so it's not going to tip and fall over with the weight of the steak on top of there. I'm going to be lighting it with the birch bark again, so I'm just prepping this stuff up. Very dry, very easy to ignite with a fire steel. So the way I like doing this is getting my firelight built in a big pile, jamming a bunch of birch bark underneath of it, and then working off to the side to ignite birch bark and then feed it in the bottom. That way you're not piling wood on top. It's already set, you literally put a flame in there, back away. Once that burns down, I'll then be able to put the grate on top and then start feeding these in from the bottom without having to remove the grate or lift it off. And once I get a good coal base in there, that's when I'll start getting the steak on top, get it seasoned up, and enjoy some beautifully cooked food over the fire. So let's get this fire lit. Alright guys, with those steaks on there and the fire basically burned out a flame, now it's in the coals. Gonna kick back and just let it do its thing. Hopefully this brew will kick in and take the feeling of my thumb away. Might as well explain what had happened there. So, yes, I do have gloves. Yes, I have been wearing them. In fact, they're right there. But what had happened is when I was filming and moving some things around, the ground had caught on fire, and I usually let the ground burn just for a minute because it's only going to burn once, right? So once it burns, controlled, tamp it out, and then it won't burn again. Well, the grill happened to be in the fire while the ground was burning. So when I went to reach for the grill, I grabbed the cold side, and then I rotated it and grabbed it, and it took a minute for my brain to kick in and say, geez, that's hot. And yeah, burned it real bad. Really bad. On a scale of 1 to 10, I would put this probably 10 times worse than my most painful tattoo on my body. And I've got some pretty ouchies. So that was horrible. Horrible. The worst part about it is, and I know some of you are probably going to laugh, the worst part is this is my dial thumb for my camera. So now while I'm mashing the buttons and dialing or trying to spin the dial, my skin is like crocodile skin, so it's just skating across the dial and I can't get any grip. Yep, that's the worst part. So, like I said, I'm going to let this do its thing. I am going to be wearing my gloves, obviously, as I had been, but didn't really help that time because, like I said, I didn't realize I was actually going to be hot. So, my finger, oddly enough, the way the channel is burned in there, it's like dead skin, like horrible dead callous skin. It's grabbing on everything, like the pieces of wood it's grabbing on, just like skating across it. It hurts a lot, but I am very good with pain, so I will continue doing what I'm doing, and that is cooking steak and having a great time. So I'm going to get some of this hardwood sitting next to the fire here just so it can continue to dry out. It is nice and dry, but the ground's damp and it's kind of soaking up some of that dampness in the moss. That is putting out a lot of heat still with those coals, so that steak's going to cook nicely. And yeah, basically going to enjoy that as soon as it's done. Sip on my brew here. Boomer is off over here behind me, nodding off. He really wants to lick my finger, but I'm not letting him anywhere near it. And it's actually 3 fingers, so my thumb got the worst of it. My index finger, the whole inside of that is burned right on the crack of the knuckle. And then my middle finger got a little tiny bit of it. So, hot tent season has officially begun. Alright guys, so if you can make out my thumb and the really interesting grill pattern burned into my flesh. Plus that hole, and that hole right there burned into my finger. I might be giving the thumbs up, but it hurts a lot. Alright guys, so I've got the wood stove going and that is throwing out a ton of heat. I've got the campfire in the background, which is on its last round of wood. And basically I put all the wood inside of the vestibule here. I've got the hardwood in the front. I've got some of the punky pieces on the outside, more of the larger drier pieces on the side closest to me, and even a couple logs underneath of the stove. Basically just going to burn this low and slow. Looking inside, it is doing a great job. So I'm actually going to damp it down just a tiny bit. Bump that damper open a little bit just to slow that burn down because it is very, very hot right now. The evening is starting to cool off. So as you guys can see, the lights are on. It's actually a lot darker out right now than it appears in camera. So it's going to be soon time to be crawling inside of the tent. I'm going to enjoy that outside fire for a few moments. Let this do its thing before coming inside of the tent. So far, so good. I'm actually enjoying this. It is absolutely silent out here. And I love this time of early fall where everything's silent and the night air starts to set in. Very enjoyable. So I want to go sit in front of that fire and let this stove do its thing. And we'll be in here in no time. Alright guys, it is now nightfall, jumping inside of the tent. I still have both doors wide open. Just loaded the wood stove full of a little bit more wood. Got my shoes kicked off to the side here, which is what I like to do, is kind of get them near the heat source so they could dry out. Even though I'm not wet or rainy, there is some moisture in there from walking around from the day. Pants have got to get changed as well, so I did bring a pair of base layer pants and a pair of very long, thick socks, and a sleeping bag that is rated for -8. So the idea behind this is I like to sleep in base layer pants and long socks because typically I just sleep with a t-shirt at this time of year. I'm going to be using my hoodie as a pillow, and with the sleeping bag, I'm actually going to unzip the whole thing and just drape it over top of me like a top quilt. Boomer likes to come in and out of the sleeping bag throughout the night at this time of year. So I've got my backpack off to the side so he can kind of just land on the the backpack off the sleeping pad, stay a little bit warm off the ground, and then come back in as he pleases. He does have his little boot slippers. They're not on yet. He's just kind of kicked down in the back end of the tent right now away from the heat because he's too hot. So he's actually on the ground sheet. And other than that, everything looks really good. The bonus with this tent which is actually the reason why I brought it, is it has a massive mesh window here. So I'm actually going to unzip that all the way down. The outside also unzips, so if I wanted to open up the side door and have this as my door, basically to get in and out of the tent, I could do that, which is really useful in different kind of situations, different winds. So if the wind's coming in from this side, I can literally enter the tent from this door and leave the whole vestibule zipped shut, and that's on both sides of the tent as well. So there is a solid zip panel. It's not just a window, guys, and there's about a 12 to 14 inch vestibule on that side. So if I want to tuck my backpack in there, I can, but like I said, Boomer's inside right now. He's going to be sleeping on that. And just to give you guys a little bit of a sneak peek here, if I were to unzip, it actually feels really good. I might leave that open. I'm definitely going to zip the bug net shut. Yeah, I think I'm going to lay like that for a little bit, get the little bit of that cross breeze coming through here. That's awesome. Great feature. I don't use it very often, but this time of year, it's definitely good for letting some of the heat out, some of the breeze in. And like I said, if you want to enter the tent from the sides instead of the front, you can, which is always a bonus. Some people like side entry tents more than fronts. I personally like a side entry tent, but in this kind of configuration, it might only be viable to come in from the front, as you got a lot of gear or 2 sleeping pads in here. Today I only have 1, so options. But yeah, I'm stuffed. I had all that steak, very full. I do have some snacks inside of the tent right now. So I did bring a pepperoni stick. And I've got some of these, they look like bird eggs. What they are is they're peanuts. I got them at a Chinese market. They're peanuts with this crust on the outside, and they're flavored individually. So there's a soy sauce, there's a light soy, there's a seaweed, and there's a brown sauce. Not sure what that is, but there's 4 different types there. They actually look like bird eggs, which is hilarious. So I've got those, and I also have some dried mango. Whole bag of dried mango coming in at 120 grams. So those are just some snacks. The mango was supposed to be for breakfast, so if I do get hungry throughout the night, I may have to ration it, maybe not. But I think this is basically going to be warming up to the stove here. It's basically going to be it for the evening. I am going to get this light off and turn this light down because it is very bright right now. It's only on for filming purposes, and enjoy some of this night light. So I'm going to say goodnight to you guys, and I'll catch up with you first thing in the morning for coffee. Peace out, guys. Good morning, everybody. It is a windy, cloudy, and somewhat chilly morning today. I've got my cup of hot coffee right now. Wood stove is cranked up, putting out some serious heat, which I can actually feel wafting into my leg from outside of the tent. Last night, it got very windy. Some of these trees were thrashing and banging around, but we stayed nice and warm and comfortable inside of the tent. So early morning, cup of coffee, not a whole lot going on today. Like I said, the winds did pick up last night and it is somewhat windy today. I've just loaded the wood stove with a tiny bit more wood. I'm not going to be putting any more in there. Basically, I'm just going to enjoy my coffee and then start my pack up process. Food last night was really great, so I do have to get that stove put away as well. And I did watch a movie in the tent last night. I was up quite late actually. I tried going to sleep and the wind was just thrashing and crashing. The pipe was creaking and moaning and groaning and doing all kinds of weird things. The wood stove was just ticking away and kept me up for a little bit. But once I fell asleep, I was out. Woke up early this morning. Like I said, guys, gonna enjoy this cup and then start the teardown. So cheers, guys, and good morning. All right, guys, I've got everything packed up inside of the backpack, and it was a little bit of a challenge, but everything's in there. And by challenge, I mean my thumb. Hurts a lot. Very, very burned, but the bonus is now it's all hard and calloused that I don't have to worry about it cutting open or blistering open. So everything in the bag. This trip went really, really well. The twig stove worked awesome. The wood stove was definitely a treat inside of the hot tent. Food was excellent. The weather's great. It's nice and breezy and cloudy. These leaves are really starting to turn color, so hopefully within the next couple of weeks we'll have some really bright oranges and reds and some lower temperatures. So thank you for joining. Peace out, and I'll see you in the next episode.